Hi, I'm Mike Papantonio, and this is America's Lawyer. President Biden went to Saudi Arabia recently, and the trip could not have gone worse. We'll tell you why his move was a mistake from the very start. A new report shows that trust in the media is at an all-time low, which is leading nearly half of Americans to avoid the news completely. We'll tell you what's happening. And a new lawsuit says that the popular candy Skittles, well, they're not safe for human consumption, and they might be a bigger problem than anybody dreamed of. We'll bring you the details. All that and more, it's all coming up. Don't go anywhere. This is America's Lawyer. It starts right now. President Biden is back from his trip to Saudi Arabia, and it didn't go all that well. Ring of Fire's Farron Cousins joins me to talk about what happened. We kind of have done we did three stories before he went saying, don't go, it's a mistake. Give me your take on it.
Well, first of all, he shouldn't have gone in the first place. You know, he absolutely should not have made this trip. And when he gets there, he did do the right thing. He brought up Jamal Khashoggi and the fact, hey, you killed him. Mm-hmm. And then Saudi Arabia kind of hit back at something that, you know, makes a lot of sense. Like, well, do you remember Abu Ghraib? Do you remember all of those other journalists that you have killed around the globe? And you're going to sit here and lecture us about killing one man, which, you know, kind of is a bit of an admission like, yeah, we killed him, but you guys are pretty bad too. And it just shows that the U.S., unfortunately, has no moral high ground on any of these issues.
It's really hard to hear coming from this psycho punk, MBS, who shouldn't be there to begin with. I mean, The question always comes, one of Khashoggi's issues was he would ask the question, how did these people get in, how are they in power? Who gave them the right to even be in power? How is all of this oil-rich land theirs? It's almost like there was no proclamation, and then you had the British that supported the royal family, and that just it started a chain reaction, and the royal family's been there ever since, threatening everybody who poses a risk to them. But to have MBS have the moral high ground when he says, well, what about your invasion of Iraq that was based on a total lie that was created by Dick Cheney and Bush and all those war pimps? And how about your involvement with Israeli apartheid, where you're pumping that up? So it raised some issues, but the real issue comes down to this: he shouldn't have been there to begin with. This is an ugly, ugly dictator that actually watched. There's some question: did he watch Khashoggi being murdered and dismembered as it was going on through a TV set?
Yeah, that is definitely something that is likely to have happened. There's a little bit of evidence out there to say that he was watching this and understood what happened, but to bring up these issues again, and Saudi Arabia was right there with us, by the way. For him to bring that up is ridiculous because they were right there with us with Iraq. They supported that 100%, and MBS was a part of that family. But there is a point to be made here. I mean, we never really had justice of any kind. The conversation just disappeared about all of that torture. The last we heard from it was when Eric Holder came in as AG and said, I'm looking forward, not backward. Yeah. And then all the torture stuff just disappeared.
Well, that was the Obama approach, right? Yeah. Wall Street stole $3 trillion from the American public. Obama ran on the idea, we're going to look forward. Well, he didn't run. He ran on the idea, we're going to go after him. Yeah. As soon as he was in office, you had people like Eric Holder and Obama saying, we want to look forward, not backward, because the money was threatening their agenda. But on this story, to me, I think the important thing about it is, when we know that Allende, for example, we murdered Allende. The CIA has murdered a lot of leaders over the globe over a period of time. But when we kind of get it rubbed in our face by this psychopathic punk, it's pretty painful. Yeah. An appeals court has revived a lawsuit against Bayer AG by a man who says his cancer was caused by exposure to Roundup weed killer. Well, first of all, you and I have followed. Matter of fact, I handled some of the first Roundup cases that were ever filed in the United States. I took probably the first 3 or 4 depositions in that case. These people are absolutely devoted to putting money ahead of everything. In the 50s, you and I have talked about this, they had clear indication that their weed killer would cause cancer, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. The rat studies, they phonied them up. They took those studies, phonied it up, and the EPA found out about the studies being phonied up and still didn't do anything about it.
Right, that's what people need to understand, because you look at it right now, the EPA says, no, glyphosate, totally safe, not going to cause cancer, you've got nothing to worry about. Well, 30 years ago, the EPA was telling us a very different story. They were telling us that Monsanto, who was making it before Bayer bought them out, Monsanto lied to you. They covered up these studies. Early 90s, EPA says this stuff will absolutely give you cancer. Like unequivocally, our studies show it, their studies show it. And then a few years later, you got some lobbying on behalf of Monsanto. They created this, glyphosate task force to whitewash every horrible piece of news.
Well, what people miss about this story is it was very evident when I was taking the depositions. This is all tied into globalism, you understand. Glyphosate was going to be the thing that was going to save the planet from food shortage. You had the Clinton administration and the Bush administration say, we have to have this. We can't put any kind of limits on these folks because we need food all over the world. Well, it was a big lie. It was an absolute lie. And instead of creating anything positive, they decimated the farming industry in places like India, Pakistan, and places like that around the world.
Right, and again, totally money driven, because after they're marketing Roundup, they say, well, hey, at the same time, why don't you buy our Roundup ready crops?
Yeah.
So that way you can just spray this stuff all over your fields. It'll kill your weeds, but not your crop. And now we're at the point where recent studies showed that 80% of people tested, men, women, children across the board, 80% have glyphosate in their bodies right now.
Yeah, and the problem is it's cumulative. It doesn't. It may get rid of part of it over a period of time, but you're reloading all of the time. The biggest problem that we found in the case early on was the damage it does to children. When children are at a growth stage, it causes all types of possible cancers in that child. Everything from leukemia to cancer in the bone plates. They knew all this. And what I love about this decision by the appeals court, it says, you know what? We don't care what the EPA says. The argument was by the company was, well, the EPA told us what we could and could not label, and therefore we're protected. The appeals court says, hell no, we're not going to rely on this dysfunctional EPA anymore.
Yeah, and the EPA, as we know, has been captured by the regulatory or by the agencies they're supposed to regulate for 30, 40 years at this point. You can't really trust what's coming out of that agency whatsoever. I mean, we've got lobbyists, we've got industry insiders, all kinds of people that have headed up this agency and completely dismantled it and made it a joke from the inside out.
The last three folks that have been at the very top of the structure of the EPA all came from they all came from the corporate side of it. They were either lobbyists for corporate, they're political for corporate, they worked with corporate where it came to chemicals and pesticides and herbicides. Every one of them had those ties, and every president that appointed them knew that. And they had all the information they needed to know that this guy is nothing but a corporate whore that's going to allow corporate America to do whatever they want. And that's the Roundup story exactly. Yep. Nearly half of Americans say that they avoid reading the news. It's a problem both for citizens and journalists. These are startling kinds of numbers that I read. This was in The Guardian. And well, first of all, give me your take on that story where they say 42% of the public now avoids the news totally. And I want to go through the list of reasons.
Yeah, I think it's obviously a very bad thing for this country. We're already so misinformed and uninformed as it is. So for almost half the country to say, you know what, I'm just done with the news, it is really bad for our public education. But then again, if you are a regular news consumer, you're still probably not getting real, actual, factual news. So I don't know if it's bad that people aren't watching the news or if it's good that people aren't watching the news. I just know we've got some big problems, and I don't even know where to begin.
Here's the list of things that the writers say that the reason that the news is in the hole right now. Loss of confidence in the news, hate agendas. They say there's too much hate agenda by the news. That's untrustworthy. These are words that come out of these polls. that the bias is such that they can't believe what they're being told, that it's inaccurate most of the time. It's going to be inaccurate when they do their own look and they find out, well, was this true? It's self-serving. Now, you and I have talked about this, self-serving in the fact that they're going to let an advertiser get away with a hell of a lot. For example, the pharmaceutical industry, advertising on all the media. Every 4 seconds you have an ad. Well, it's very difficult to break through and have the news actually report that that pharmaceutical that they're advertising is killing people. Or how about the weapons industry that you like to talk about?
Yeah, they're sitting there, Boeing, advertising, oh, look at our wonderful jet engines. GE is another one. We're making these wonderful jet engines here on this commercial. What are you even selling? I mean, we're not.
Are you going to buy a jet engine?
I have no plans for it in the future.
But what are they really doing?
They're buying their influence. They're making sure that, hey, you can't go after us because we just spent $40 million this quarter making sure that we're running ads on your network. So you got to be nice to us.
That's one of the things that people are recognizing right now.
And it's about time.
Self-serving advertising agendas. The fact, this is startling to me, that they felt like the media is trying to engage in social engineering that's offensive to them. Their point being, just give me the news. Another point was that it's being driven, that all the media is being driven by the top 1% elite. But I don't think you can put it all on the media, do you?
No, I think a lot of it has to do with, people just in general seeking out information that just reaffirms what they already believe, the stuff they want to hear. And we do see that all the time. We see it on the left, we see it on the right. People only want to know what they think they already know. Or something, of course, as you pointed out, the hate agenda, that's going to make them angry. Or that's going to show that, hey, this person you dislike did another bad thing. I mean, that's what most of all online media is today.
Yeah, well, they're micro-focused on their agenda. It's almost childlike. You and I joke all the time. We can put up a story that the headlines can be, cancer is cured. Cancer is cured last Wednesday. And we can put that story up, and then right underneath the story, with our group of folks that follow it, we can put Trump hatred. We can put Republican hatred. We can put anything that falls on Trump hatred. That story will get more or as many as cured cancer. Now, why is that?
Well, again, people seek out the information that they think is going to make them feel better. That reaffirms whatever it is they already believe. And again, it's not just us, it's everybody with any kind of, political YouTube channel. We see it all the time on the left, on the right. The right is saying, the left is terrible, watch this horrible thing. Oh, the right is terrible, watch this horrible thing. And in between that, we always try to give real news, real factual things. We're not afraid to go after both sides when they deserve it.
But watch what happens when we do that. You see, if I stand up here even to talk about the middle, here's the middle position. The outrage is ridiculous. Farron, why are you doing the show with Pap? Pap, you're turning to right. The problem is it's almost a childlike analysis. I only want to eat the ice cream. I don't want to eat the vegetables. And so the news is no longer the vegetables. The news is all ice cream. Here, you're a right-winger, here's your news. You're a left-wing progressive, we know this is all you want to listen to because apparently it's too painful to listen to anything else, so here it is. It's a dangerous place that we are right now.
It really is. And one of the things, too, that came out of this report was the young people. The young people, and I found this really interesting because it kind of goes back to the olden days. The young people say, we want long-form information from podcasts.
That is interesting.
But what that reminds me of is, way back in, my young days in the 80s, it was 60 Minutes. That's your long-form news. Go all the way back, to your Ed Murrows and your Cronkites. That's what it was.
They couldn't exist.
Right, but it almost seems like this young generation wants to go back to that a little bit. They actually say, well, let me hear people explain things.
We think that it's the millennials that are doing this polarized kind of listening. It's not. It's not as much as it is the baby boomers, which is a big surprise. It's the baby boomers that I swear, people miss the fact, for example, that our law firm owns all of Ring of Fire. And our stories run progressive about 10 to 1. But even that one story, oh, God, don't tell me something I don't want to hear. I think it's dangerous.
It really is. People have to understand, you have to get all sides of it. Otherwise, you're getting propaganda.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not our job to be a cheerleader for one side or the other. And most of the media has gone to the cheerleading role.
Yeah.
It's either our side is better, your side sucks, or everything is okay, everything is fine. These corporations, no, they're not doing anything bad to you.
Even when you do your stories that are beat the hell out of Trump, or beat the hell out of the Republicans. Again, that's a Ring of Fire product that we engage in. I mean, we own this. So we want 10 to 1, but we want that middle story to at least get somebody's attention and say, my God, I've never thought about that. Very tough to do nowadays. Nancy Pelosi's husband bought millions in tech stock as Congress works on legislation that would clearly benefit industry. Wow. I saw this story, and it's almost as if the writer completely missed the point. Don't you think? Ted, why don't you set it up, okay?
Yeah, we got this story from Yahoo Finance. They talk about, you've got Paul Pelosi. He exercised options, is the way they put it. He bought $5 million worth of stock.
Which is fine.
Right, but then they didn't explain at all in this particular piece.
Yahoo Finance.
This is why Finance. That matters. Why do I even care that you're reporting that Paul Pelosi bought $5 million in NVIDIA stock?
Yeah.
Well, the real reason that this Yahoo Finance reporter forgot to mention is that Congress is considering legislation to boost semiconductor production in the United States. Basically hand a ton of money over to companies like NVIDIA that's going to benefit the people who own the stock.
Isn't this what we're talking about? Here's a reporter that does a 2-page report, talks about Pelosi and Pelosi's husband and selling. He sold 200 options, call options, 20,000 shares, $5 million over the counter. Doesn't ever tie it up. Why the hell do I care? How about this? The guy goes out and sells and buys semiconductor stock the week before, oh, by the way, coincidence, that Nancy Pelosi is pushing through this bill that's going to bolster production of semiconductors. I mean, how does a reporter miss that?
Right. I mean, that is the actual heart of the story. That's why this matters. I don't care about, Paul Pelosi's random stock purchases. Tie it up to something that has to do with Congress, and then it suddenly does become an issue here. And this absolutely is a big issue. I know Paul Pelosi is not in Congress, but his spouse here is running Congress.
She's running Congress. She knows a vote's coming up that's going to put a ton of money into the semiconductor business. Hey, baby, you know what's going to happen next week? We're going to do this. Why don't you go buy some stock? Nancy Pelosi, of course, kicking and screaming, says, I will not change the law that allows congressmen and congresswomen to trade shares. I'm just not going to do it. And all of a sudden, she's caught red-handed. I haven't heard an explanation. Nobody's asked her the tough question. Ma'am, this is insider trading. If anybody else did that besides you, they would be in prison for insider trading. But you can do it?
Yeah,
really?
And that's the big problem with this is she disclosed it on her financial forms. So she said, yep, here it is, it happened. I'm reporting it like I'm supposed to. And because she did that, there is no criminal penalty whatsoever.
Yeah.
And even if there were, it would only be a $200 fine for Pelosi's husband.
It's an announcement, isn't it, Farron? Yeah. The announcement is this: I'm going to engage in insider trading. Since I've told you I'm going to do it, I'm going to be free to do it. If anybody else did it, they're going to end up in prison. Wow.
Anybody outside of Congress.
Anybody else
can do
exactly.
it too.
And she's the one that's fighting desperately to keep the right to be able to do that in Congress.
Well, and we have seen, look, dozens and dozens, we've talked about this. It's Democrats, it's Republicans, it's most of them doing this. And it's hundreds of their staffers, too, that do this.
It's not
and
party
nobody
driven.
gets in trouble.
It's okay because they're congressmen.
It's one big club, and we're not in it.
Yeah, and it's disgusting. John Bolton recently admitted, by the way, what a nutcase, but he recently admitted that he helped orchestrate coups all around the country on behalf of the U.S., all over the globe on behalf of the U.S. government. Question is, did the fruitcake ever think about a coup in the United States? My bet is yes, he did. What is your take on this?
This was such a stunning admission from Bolton here when he's, talking to Jake Tapper and says, I know a coup when I've seen it. I've orchestrated a couple coup d'etats in my day. And then Tapper said, whoa, let's
slow down there.
Hang on now.
Yeah.
So to his credit, Tapper did say, I feel like there's something you're not telling me. And Bolton then says, I assure you there is. I mean, my God, how are we not focusing on this story in the media every day? This is huge.
How about they never have? Okay, I mean, really, this has been going on with this guy. Look, there's never been a war that Bolton didn't want, didn't love. Russia, yeah, let's go after Russia. China, yeah, we need a war with China. Yemen, he was out front on Yemen. Syria, we need a war with Syria. Congo, yeah, we need to invade the Congo. Venezuela, we need to change we need to change leadership in Venezuela. And who does he do it for? He does it for all the corporate types, Raytheon and McDonnell Douglas and Boeing. Those are the people that he represents. And nobody seems to be able to connect the fact that the guy's a dangerous war pimp and he's still walking around in Washington respected. He's still showing up on the morning news Sunday mornings.
I know, and to feel confident enough to actually admit this. I mean, we've all known, those of us who understand 80s politics, going back to Iran-Contra, we know who John Bolton is. He was involved in that. He's been doing this for decades. But for him to now feel confident enough that I can go out there and sit on CNN and talk to the tens of people watching it and say, yeah, I did coup d'etats around the globe. What are you going to do about it?
In the Iran-Contra, I mean, his whole thing was we got to stop the Sandinistas. We got to get involved. And the truth was, when you look back at it, it was a conflict almost completely driven by the United States.
Yeah.
And he was the guy behind it. But, CNN loves him. Sometimes count the number of times you will see this screwball on CNN where he's talking world policy. And and advertisers love him. Yeah. I mean, Boeing and Raytheon, McDonnell, they love this guy because he's the guy that's talking up war all the time, including the war that's going on right now in Ukraine. He wants to expand the war.
and CNN, when there's international conflict, that's about the only time they actually get ratings.
Yeah.
So that's why this guy works for them.
Yeah.
If he's out there pushing war, if they can get a war, CNN might, survive
war
another
sells.
day.
CNN is the worst of the worst where it comes to selling war, and this is their guy right here. A new lawsuit claims that Skittles are unsafe for human consumption. And my guess is that they're right, since Skittles contains titanium oxide. Yeah. I mean, we've known what titanium oxide is for generations, how dangerous it is. Pick it up.
Yeah, this stuff has the ability, titanium dioxide here, to change your DNA, to alter DNA, especially in Skittles' core demographic, children. Children love Skittles. They're colorful, they're fruity, they're wonderful. And this chemical that Skittles actually swore years ago, we're taking it out, never did.
Well, 2016, they said we've taken it out. Okay? They lied.
Right. And so this can absolutely destroy a human's body. Studies have shown this. It's so bad that Europe this month is going to ban it.
Yeah,
they're going to get rid of it.
Entire EU says you may not sell titanium dioxide here in Europe. I mean, and they said, here's the reasons. The reasons is, hey, you have to know, this is something that's used in paint, house paint. This is something that's used in adhesives, all kinds of adhesives. And oh, by the way, we even use it in roofing materials. And on and on. The places that this stuff is used, it's the equivalent of saying it's okay for your child to go out and chew on a roofing shingle. That's what's in this stuff. And it's been there for now, since 2016 we found out about it. It was in there long before. It's dangerous, man.
Right, and so this lawsuit, which they're trying to get, the class action for this, which I have to imagine that class would be everybody in the country that's consumed a Skittle. It's saying that, listen, you're not being forthright with us. You're not telling us this is in there. You look on the label, where is it saying titanium dioxide? Yeah. So you're lying to consumers, and unfortunately, that's all we can get them for. Yeah. We can't get them right now for any specific damages.
I don't know that we can even do that, because the FDA the FDA has given, the FDA looks sided with this company. They said the titanium dioxide is fine, because it's so little, it's just so little. But what if you're eating a package of these things a week? It's not little because it's a chemical that is cumulative. It gets within it's systemically cumulative. It sets up in the organ systems. And the more that you eat, the more that threshold gets higher and higher. But look, DNA damage, they're finding lesions on the liver, lesions on the kidneys, that they're directly relating to titanium dioxide.
And that's certainly not what you would expect from sitting down and eating a pack of Skittles.
I wouldn't think so. The Democratic Party has a very obvious leader problem, you think? But the aging establishment is refusing to let go. My God, they just have to hang on. Look, here's the quick news. Biden, 79. Pelosi, 82. Our majority whip is 81. Durbin is 81. It's like fossil fuel up there right now. It's Jurassic Park goes to Washington. Give me your take on it.
Well, look, this is something I'm really glad the media is starting to talk about these issues, because you and I have been mentioning this for years now. And it is starting to gain traction. You have more and more people coming out talking about the ages of these individuals. Some of it has to do clearly with Biden, with his age. That is a huge story out right now. But also, I think I got to give most of this credit to Dianne Feinstein, who is going to be 90.
Yeah.
And the fact that
still, if you put a mirror under her nose, will it create condensation? That's what every time I look at this woman,
right,
I think.
but when those stories came out a couple months ago saying she doesn't recognize people on the Hill, like her staffers, she doesn't know them.
Yeah.
Her colleagues, she doesn't recognize them. That kind of kick-started the conversation a little bit with most normal, non-political news consumers saying, wait a minute, if we have members of Congress that pharmacists have said, yeah, I filled Alzheimer's prescriptions for them, I can't tell you who, but I have. We have people that have just basically aged out. We as a society tend to look at people, whether it's accurate or not, but once you hit your 80s, we say, okay, well, this person, you probably shouldn't be driving a car. You need help getting around. And yet that's what we have in leadership, making our laws. We wouldn't trust these people to drive a car.
Watch all of them, from Biden to Pelosi, halting speech, constant gaffes, almost a need to take breaks because they're overwhelmed with the pressures. But nevertheless, the Democrats, for some reason, ended up with it worse than the Republicans. And that's interesting to me. Give me your take on that.
Well, they really did. The Republicans have been trending younger. They appoint younger justices to the Supreme Court, to the federal courts. They understand that we have to pass the torch to this new generation. These folks on the Democratic side are unwilling to do that.
Yeah, I think of John F. Kennedy when he came into office. He said, the torch has been passed. He was one of the youngest presidents at that point. Torch has been passed. We have a new way that we look. Out of there came Camelot. And the whole notion of Camelot was a new, fresh Democratic Party. Politics are fresh again. These folks are hanging on for their damn life. I guess it's a good moneymaker for Pelosi, because she's the insider for insider trading for the old man who's making a bundle of money. So I don't know. I guess it's just an economic decision. But why did the Democrats allow it to happen? That's the problem.
Well, what's important to point out, too, is when Kennedy gave that speech, these people were either teenagers or in their early 20s.
Really? Yeah.
So they say, okay, the torch has been passed to us. I guess somebody has to come along and remind them, you have to pass the torch as well.
Yeah.
You don't get to hold it for the next 70 years. Yeah. You've got to find new people.
Clean the house.
Yep.
Clean the house. If they don't, you've got younger voters that these folks could be the great grandparents. Understand, the great grandparents of younger voters.
Right, and these are the people that think that, we can put on the little kente cloths and kneel down, and that's cool. Enough for these people. Yeah. That's all they want. Nancy Pelosi calling the Green New Deal the green thing.
Some of it is. That's the amazing thing. Some Democrats look at it like, oh yeah, this is okay. They have a lot of experience. Thank you for joining me, Farron, okay?
Thank you.
That's all for this week, but all of these segments are going to be available this coming week right here on this channel, and you can follow us at Twitter at America's Lawyer. I'm Mike Papantonio, and this has been America's Lawyer, where we tell you the stories that corporate media won't tell you because their advertisers won't let them or their political connections won't allow for it. The truth is, we call balls and strikes. Stay tuned. We're here every week.